You are no different from that beast that sucks the bones you throw to it. Here's your re-look at the NECA toys. This is the Hellraiser Series 2, Angelique. A summoned demon who took the sensuous form of a woman and tried to destroy the Order of the Cenobites and the gateway that is the box. When her plans failed, she is violently inducted into Pinhead's order, emerging as an erotic collision of beauty and manipulated flesh. Truly the Princess of Torment. Okay, let's go ahead and get this review underway. We're going to figure out first how tall Angelique is, then from there we'll examine the figure a little closer. Sounds good? Sounds good. The figure stands at 6.9 inches in height, and in case anybody was interested in that in centimeters, more than happy to oblige. You're looking at a figure standing 17.6, just a little over 17.5 centimeters tall. The figure would have included a few things. For example, the largest one being the display stand that the figure would have been able to attach to. It would have been part of the Pillar of Souls, which sadly I have built and put together. I guess it's not sad in the fact that it's a neat looking display piece, but it does result in all of these figures now not having the proper means to stand properly. She does not stand at all. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I've sort of cheated and used this as the means to keep the figure upright. Sort of just that clear post with the waist clipping around her waist as the only means to really get her to properly stand. If you think you can use, say for example, a regular NECA display stand, I just want to show you the size of peg hole versus the size of peg on the stand. It's just not enough. There's nothing gripping onto these holes, and as a result, you're probably going to want to customize, which I'm considering actually doing, just adding a little bit of extra like nail polish on there just to broaden the peg so it will actually fit properly into the hole socket underneath. So that's one thing, unfortunately, that this figure doesn't do well, and that is stand. If you did still have the Pillar of Souls and you wanted to break those down into their corresponding stands, then of course you could put the figures on top of that. Series 1 had the component pieces to build the configuration box, the laminate configuration box. Series 2 was the Pillar of Souls. Series 3 was that really cool Leviathan triangle, which we've had a look at. It was actually more a diamond, but we've had a look at all those in the past, and I felt sort of the itch to go back. Don't worry, I'm going to get treatment for that. And have a look at these NECA Pinhead Cenobite figures and the Hellraiser figures as a whole, just because now recently announced NECA Toys is going to be doing an ultimate version of Pinhead, and I'm really thrilled for that. We've never really gotten ourselves a fully articulated Pinhead, certainly under the brand of NECA Toys, so I'm really thrilled for the fact that finally, after all the years of collecting these Hellraiser figures, we're finally going to get ourselves a fully articulated Pinhead. It's very unlikely that we will be getting other Cenobites. I would imagine even if we did, NECA Toys are probably going to get the top 3 underway, like the Pinheads. Female Cenobite, perhaps, and Chatterer. That's about the only ones I could imagine them actually doing. Would they likely do, say, an Angelique? I would say is very unlikely, and all the more reasoning why when it came time to re-look at these figures, I figured I would start with one of my all-time favorites, and one that would be very unlikely to be reproduced again by NECA. Hellraiser 4 is still one of my all-time favorite. It is my all-time favorite Hellraiser film. I like the idea that you would have descendants of a bloodline trying to stop Pinhead, and each subsequent descendant would try to find a closer and closer way to destroying the Cenobite once and for all. It's, again, a really phenomenal movie, for me at least. And the only shortcoming to it is the fact that they just didn't have a bigger budget. I think if they had done a bigger budget to it, man, that movie would have been fantastic. But I still love Hellraiser Bloodlines. Let me know down below what your favorite Hellraiser is. I know most people would probably say Hellraiser 1 or Hellraiser 2. Even Hellraiser 3 isn't all that bad either. It's kind of when they got to those subsequent DVD releases that the movies kind of just fell apart, because they were just essentially pulling old scripts and just finding the means to put Pinhead into it. That's actually what they ended up doing with a lot of their films. So let's have a look at Angelique. Really a nice looking figure. Angelique, like I said, is from my all-time favorite Hellraiser film. And she was played by Valentina Vargas, which I don't think she did much in the way of films after that. If she did, she would probably just simply foreign films. Angelique also represents the only demon to be turned into a Cenobite, as far as I know. And again, she's just got a really neat design to her, both when she is taking her human form, and then eventually when she becomes this in her Cenobite form. Now, she would have also come with one other accessory, the accessory that would have gone right here, and that is actually a lament configuration puzzle box. Sadly, I don't know where that's gone. I suspect, if anything, I've just packaged it away with some of the other Hellraiser figures that I probably thought belonged to it, when all the while Angelique was really the one that was supposed to come with one. Now, there's actually a couple, primarily with Pinhead, that came with their own configuration puzzle box. So really, if you wanted to, you probably could easily just use one and put it in Angelique's hand. Without a puzzle box, it sort of looks like she just doesn't know what to do with her hand, like she's asking for spare change. So that is sadly two little articles of accessories that unfortunately at the time of re-reviewing this figure I simply just don't have at my disposal right now. The display stand and the puzzle box. Getting a look at her face though, it's not bad. I mean, certainly it has some dated sculpting to it. I mean, does it really look like Angelique? I guess in this form, mostly. The face is a little off, but I guess for the most part, you get the impression of what exactly Angelique looked like. Now you've got a demon with a peeled away flesh at the top of her skull here, and it's being pulled back by these metallic wiring. Unfortunately though, NECA Toys did use, if you can see it here, they actually used just threading. And the threading works well on one side. You can see how it's been fed through and pinched off by the pulled flesh on the one side. On the other side, unfortunately, she's just got dangling, it almost looks like strands of hair, because over the course of time and packing these away, my little strips of wiring here, which again is only just, it's just threading than anything else, has sadly broke. I suppose meticulously I could go in there and just get a little bit of glue and just attach it to each of the little pinched, pulled areas of the flesh. It does look like one section sadly has broken off. It's always the disappointing things of getting these figures. You pack them away, and then years later when you decide to pull them out, you can only hope that Lady Luck has worked in your favor, and none of these things are actually broken. At the very least, she doesn't have any broken arms, so knock on wood. Nothing other than just those little threadings have ripped, but everything else still seems pretty much in place here. She has typical Cenobite fare, although she now has a longer skirt, which really does disable any chance whatsoever of having this figure standing upright. If you put her down, hoping and praying that she'll actually stand, she does not. She topples right over. And I guess it's just the fact that she's got the one leg bent, the other leg is straight, and she's got very little of a footprint. In fact, it seems most of her weight is kind of focused on the one side, so it's guaranteeing you that the moment you want to put this figure down on a stand, or just flat as such, the figure is going to fall over, which is really disappointing. Gets some other details happening here. Her outfit is pretty simplistic when you compare it to, say, some of the other Cenobites. She has the skirting, which runs quite low and quite long, actually. They've added some additional light blue coloring just on the edges, just on the areas where that fabric would have been pulled and stretched. So a few openings there on the sides of her thighs. Of course, her midriff and belly section is exposed. She's got a few little areas here, but doesn't really seem too torturous, perhaps, say, than the likes of Hellraiser's Pinhead himself. She's got a few little areas here where it looks like it's being pulled into her flesh, similar to Pinhead. But again, certainly not to the extreme that he's had to undergo. I guess you could say, yeah, she has suffered a bit. I like the fact, though, that right here you can kind of see where the top of her face would have actually started had this continued to peel its way back. Nice paint overall on the top of her skull. You can see the little crack areas here, and even like the back section where, again, tissue would be visible if the flaps of the flesh continue to pull their way down. It's a pretty looking face. It's close enough. I think they actually worked better by making Angelique, the Cenobite version of Angelique, had they actually made her the more human Angelique, I think you probably would have experienced a little bit more. You would have saw a lot more of NECA's shortcomings back in the day when trying to make pretty looking head sculpts accurate to the way they looked in the film. For her articulation, now this is the limited aspect of these figures. None of these figures really have a whole lot of articulation, and in the case of Angelique, even if she did, you really don't want to rotate her head too much. If you pull and twist it too far, guaranteed, even though this side's broken and this side's fine, if I turn it too much this way, I'm sure I'm probably going to make these quite taut and eventually just rip these right out of the sockets as well. I'm just thankful that the one side at least is fixed and already, it's not broken. This side here, like I said, I'll probably just take a little bit of glue and just glue those into place. So at least it looks finished on both sides. Her arms rotate, but not much though. In fact, this arm here seems to move further back than it does move forward. It seems to almost want to stop when I want to bring the arms forward. On the back side of things, they do swing back. That's as far as they seem to want to go. She swivels at the glove, and she swivels at the glove here as well. So if you did actually have her with the configuration puzzle box, you could simply just twist her hand around and then just put the puzzle box into her palm like so. One good thing is, because the hand twists like this, even if you didn't necessarily have the puzzle box, you can, I guess, bring the arm down. So that's some fix to the fact she doesn't have currently her accessory with her. She doesn't have any waist swivel. She certainly does not have any leg articulation, and she doesn't have any foot articulation as well, other than just head, shoulders, and sections in her forearm that can twist. That's pretty much all that Angelique can do. See, one thing she certainly can't do, as we've already established, is the fact that she can't stand whatsoever. You do have a display stand, and might I just say, these display stands have come rather in handy for displaying figures that just, in theory, don't stand anyways. If you can get a clear display stand that has the waist clip, and you can get at least something to display Angelique. That is, of course, if you haven't already built the Pillar of Souls, you can most definitely use the display stands used from all those individual pieces that come together to make the Pillar of the Souls. There are certain figures that I've parted ways with over the years, regretting many after the fact. Some of my adjacents from the Mezco lines, and that's one of the reasons why the Mezco Cinema Fear figures, I've never really done re-reviews of them, because I parted ways with those a long time ago. Surprisingly enough, the one thing I didn't get rid of, and I still pretty sure I have all of them, is all the Hellraiser figures from Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3. And I think with the timing perfect now that NECA Toys is planning to do an Ultimate Pinhead, I hope further Cenobites will be coming as well. I thought it was a perfect time to go back and re-look, if you will, at the original NECA Hellraiser figures. Now, unfortunately, I can't imagine that the prices on these will be dropping anytime soon. Sometimes you can luck out and you go to flea markets. I've gone to a few flea markets where they've been selling like a Series 3, several figures from Series 3. I think I actually ended up getting a Frank, of all places, from a local flea market, and I was able to get it for a pretty good price. If you were to source these out online, though, for the longest time, the NECA Hellraiser figures were doing well price-wise, that you could pick them up for a steal. Nowadays, I think more and more scalpers realize that there is interest and demand still for these older figures. It's very unlikely, like I said, the case and example here of Angelique, I don't think we're ever going to get an ultimate version of Angelique that has full articulation. So for that reason, I think a lot of scalpers realize that. I don't even want to say scalpers, but people selling these realize what the value of these are going for, and as a result of it, prices have pretty much increased from what they used to be to probably what you would be expecting to pay, probably about $35 to $40 for each of these. Some of them a little bit more reasonable. Angelique, I can't imagine, has as much the demand for her as, say, the likes of, the go-to Cenobites, the Chatterer, Butterball even, the female Cenobite, and of course Pinhead. So if you can luck out, I would definitely say pick this one up and add it to your collection for no other reason than really, if you're a big fan of the Hellraiser Bloodline film like I am, and for the fact that we're probably never going to get this one as an ultimate version, all the more reasoning to start picking up Cenobites now to have included along with the ultimate Pinhead when he eventually gets released. If you did manage to pick up this figure somewhere along the lines and you still have it, let me know what you guys think of the figure, or if you even had it at one point and you sold it, let me know what you guys think of the figure, or based on even this review, what do you think of the Hellraiser Series 2 Angelique, minus of course her puzzle box. and her display stand. I didn't have those at the time of this review. If you guys certainly want to go see some of my older reviews of Hellraiser Pinhead figures and other Cenobite figures, I've got all those playlists set up for you. You guys can check out your viewing pleasure. And don't worry, if you do find the picture quality a little older and grainier on these older reviews of mine, I have a tough time watching them as well. Don't worry, there's going to be a whole ton of new reviews coming soon to this channel, where I think I'm going to go through and have a look at all these Cenobite figures that were released from NECA Toys. There's definitely a lot of charm going on with these, and I would love to give them a second coat of paint, a second opinion, if you will. So stay tuned to this channel, because there's going to be a whole lot of stuff coming your way. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Swing next door, why not, to some space station out in space. I'm sure they're plotting something with a giant cube. And hit that bell notification if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, because like I said, there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.